Welcome. In this unit, we're going to learn about asynchronous tasks in Android, also known as async tasks. Right. If you're watching this, you're probably a Rose-Hulman student who's working on the Comic Viewer lab, so you know a little bit about the context for this is that we're going to be loading up comics from a network server and something that we don't want to hang our UI thread. So yeah, in this lesson in particular, we're going to learn about what an async task is and how we can use it to download information from the network. Okay. So the main thing, right, is that if we didn't have an async task, let's see what would happen here, right? So over time, you know, we're going ahead and we're using the UI, and we have a UI thread here, and that's responding to to button presses, and it's updating the display and all that fun kind of stuff that we've done so far. And then we say, hey, you know, I want to go ahead and download something off the network. And if without an async task, it's going to pass control over the network, and it's just going to be hanging, waiting for this round trip, data from the network. And it might take, a few milliseconds, 100 milliseconds. It might take, a couple seconds or longer. But the point is that for that whole time, our UI is unresponsive, right? It's doing nothing here, right? And that's not what we want, right? Because it can be so slow. So instead of hanging the UI thread, what we're going to do is an asynchronous task can run in the background at the same time as our UI, so we can still be responsive, right? So that's the whole idea here. So an async task is just a Java class, and there's 5 methods that it has. We're really only going to use 2. So let's look at the 2 most important ones. So one is called do in background, and that in there you're going to put all the work that you want to do, right? So in this case, we're going to be connecting to a server asking for information from the network. Okay. And then we need somehow for it to let us know when it's done. So there's a callback here called onPostExecute. And then, when it's done, then we could do things like update our UI with the information that we pulled from the network. There's also a couple other methods that have to do with progress. Okay, so you can set up a progress bar and update it over time. I'm not going to worry about that here. There's also an onCanceled callback in case your task was actually canceled. Again, not going to worry about that. But the one other thing I will mention is that you can pass data into the asynchronous task constructor. Right, so say if there's some other information that you want to store. Okay, more information about it down here if you want to follow the link. All right, let's look at an example briefly. All right, so here's an example of using it not to do something on the network, but just to do something locally with a SQLite database. And this is really because hey, we had to write a whole bunch of data. That can still take some time to work here. So what I did, an async task is one of our async tasks is really just a subclass of Java's async tasks. So I called mine dump all to database, extends async task, and here's my couple methods. So one is what I want to have done in the background. So I was writing out a big list here. So I took that as an input, and then I called off another method here to actually do the data writing. And it returned a Boolean, just basically whether it's successful or not, and I returned that. And then my callback, so once it's done, it's going to pass in that completed, and then I can, in this case, just display to toast. So you'll notice here that the type of what I'm returning in do in background is the same type as the parameter for onPostExecute, and it's going to be passing the same data, basically. All right. So a little bit more about this. If I want to call this, then I'm going to make an instance of the class here. So make a new dump all to database, and then call .execute, and then pass in any information that I want to send into it, in this case, the array list. Let's talk a little bit more about these parameters here. So you notice we have 3 things. So this is basically for input, progress, and output. So the input, what we call params, is just we need to specify here the type of the things that we want to pass in, and then the type of the progress units, which I'm not caring about progress at all. So that is just going to be, you'd think it'd be null. It uses a type void, so the void class capital V, right? Maybe new for you. And then for our output, it was returning something of type Boolean. So I just put in the Boolean class right here, right? And so on. All right, that's one example, very straightforward example. All right, let's actually apply it to our task at hand, which is downloading the XKCD data. All right, So I will mention that the author of XKCD, so Randall Monroe, has made all of his comics available through sort of a standard interface. And so if you were to do this, and you can try it now, if you go to xkcd.com/ and then give it an issue number. So this example here is issue 614, and then /info.0.json, then that will return for you all the information about that comic. It's kind of neat. So it works out kind of beautifully. You know, there's stuff like here, like the title of the comic, a URL where I could go to actually get the image for the comic. It has the issue number, the date that it was published, all that stuff. So lots of good information there. All right. So as far as what's actually going to be happening, let's take a look at what I'm going to be creating here. So I loaded this up. So it turns out I just cannibalized my hello button example from earlier in the course. And when I press the button, you remember we were just incrementing a counter. I'm just using that count as the issue number. So I clicked this a few times already, so I'm up to issue 6. So clicking it just increments the issue number and then shows the JSON. And of course, in practice, I wouldn't want to show this here. I'd actually go ahead and get the image, and I'd do something else. Probably that would look more like my final result here. Here's the title. Here's an issue number. I had it so that if I click the info button, the menu button up here, then it showed me the mouse over text, all sorts of stuff, right? And that's what you'd be doing in the lab. Okay. All right, so how does that sort of fit into what's going on here? So there's a JSON request. It turns out that to convert from JSON to Java objects, I could do that myself, or I could use a library. And there's a library called Jackson, right, that will do that. And it has an object mapper that has a read value method that, given a URL, and then the class that you want to convert it into will return an object to that class. So it's going to do all that conversion for us. And I'm going to wait for the result, and then I'm going to show the result on the screen. So like I said, in that text view. Now, if I think about how this maps to an async task, should be pretty clear here. This is my network call. So this is going to go inside, remember which method? I'm going to go inside the do in background, right? And then the callback, so when it's done, then I want to display it in the text view, and that's going to go inside my on post execute, right? So those are the big ideas for this, right? So before we go into Android Studio, just sort of outline what we're going to be doing. And the lab has the details here. I'm going to be making a comment class. I'm going to be turning the number of clicks into a URL string, right, that I can use to go fetch the JSON. And then I'm going to launch an async task to do that. I'll actually do it not asynchronously first, just to show you. And then I'm going to go ahead and make the async task itself. Right. I would encourage you to, to go ahead and open up the Comic Viewer lab, right? So that you can copy and paste a few things from there. It's just going to make things a little bit easier, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on that guy, and we see that we got it here. Right. So let's see. Go ahead and go down to XKCD issue format and comment class, and you're probably about this place anyway. And first thing that I'm going to want to do is grab the comic class. All right, so I have the code for this. So I'm going to get this on my clipboard, right, and get ready. Go ahead back to Android Studio, and we'll paste this in. All right, so here I am, and let's see. I'm going to make a new Java class called comic, and it has this guy right here, and I will paste it in. A couple other things that I'm going to want to do. So Jackson is going to use a no argument constructor. So I'm going to hit Alt Insert to generate a constructor with no arguments. And then I'll need getters and setters. So I'm going to hit Alt Insert, getters and setters. And this one I'm going to do for all of them. Click OK. It's going to make a boatload of them here. And then I want to output the string, also handy for debugging. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a toString that also is going to output everything, right, just for fun. Right. So that's my comment class, and I'm putting that in its own file. Turns out that's important to do. Right. Save off that file. All right, other things that I need to do. In my Gradle files, I need, let's see, I'm going to need some things for Jackson. So if you go back to the lab, we will go ahead and scroll down a little bit, and you'll see that there's like a compile group here. So we're going to go ahead and grab that guy and paste it into my my apps Gradle file. And then up near the top here, there's one more thing to grab, which is the packaging options. And I'll copy that guy and pop him down here, like so. And it's going to ask me to do a Gradle sync, so I can do that. I'm going to be making a network request, so I'm going to go ahead and I need to change my Android manifest so I get that. And let's see, it's syncing here, so we'll give it a second for the manifest to come back. There we go. And Android manifest. I go up to the top above the application, and I do uses permission. And it's pretty good about knowing what I need here, so you can start typing the name internet if you want. And it's android.permission.internet, and then close off the tag, so /, and then we'll put in the close tag for us. And I'll save that guy off as well. And that's my setup. Okay, and again, I'm just really going along with the lab here. I got that set up so you wouldn't forget any of this. And if you want more information about Jackson, that's down here, but you really don't need anything else. We're going to use it in a very basic way. Okay. All right, so before we get to async tasks here, so let's go ahead and let's see. Back to the code. So my Java code. Open up my main activity and my onClick. So I'm going to get rid of this whole thing about hiding it after 10 clicks. And let's see, what else do I want here? My number of clicks, I'm going to change. This is now going to be an issue number. So I'm going to go ahead and refactor this guy, and I'll call it issue number, like so. Increment that. And I will start at the first issue is issue 1. So I'll start at issue 1. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and get a comic. So comic is, and this is a new object mapper. And since we've done a Gradle sync and we know about Jackson, it'll fill this in for us. So object mapper, like so. And with this guy, it has a read value. I'm going to use the first version here, the one that takes a URL and a class. So let's see. So it needs a URL string actually, or actually a URL itself. So grab a java.net.url, and that takes a URL string. I'll have to make that in a second here. Takes a new URL and a class. So I'm going to type in comic dot, and it looks like I put it maybe a bit too far out here. Oops, I needed to close up those parentheses first. And then I should be able to, so let's see, read value new URL, comma, comic dot class, like so. This URL string is the URL of my XKCD comic, so I'm going to build it up here using string.format. So our URL string is, let's see, so it is the result of string.format. These days it likes a locale, it's not strictly necessary. And I'm going to use my issue number, like so. And let's see, here I need to build up the URL. So let's see if I can do this without messing it up. So HTTP :// and it is going to be xkcd.com, and then the issue number, which is an integer, so %d / info.0.json, like so. And let's see, it looks like I capitalized that wrong, so just URL string, like so. Save that off, and let's see, what are we complaining about now? So I think what it's complaining about is that I need an exception here. So what I would do, sure, why not? So let's have it complete. Will it make this for me? I just want to try catch block. So go ahead and slap that there. Okay. And as it is, this should work, but it's not the point, right? It hangs the UI thread. That's not what I want to do. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and put this into an async task. So I found that async tasks I often find are just handy to do as nested inside the class that's going to be using it. So I'm going to go down here and make a class, and I'm going to call this guy getComicTask, and it extends our async, oops, if I could spell correctly, async task. All right. And then I've got some type parameters here. So let's fix this. So the input, what am I passing in? Well, I have a URL string, right? So that's going to be type string. My progress, ignore, type void. And the output, well, it's getting a comic, so it's going to return something of type comic. Okay. Let's see. Now, of course, I'm extending a class that is abstract, that has some methods in it. So I need to, I'm required to implement the do in background. So I'll have it help me with that. And you'll notice here it's using the type parameters correctly, so passes in a string, returns a comic, like so. Okay. So that's super. And actually what it's doing, you'll notice this right here is a variable number of strings. So I'm going to call this guy URL strings. And then I know I only passed in one. Well, I'll pass it in a second. I am going to only pass in one. And that's going to be the first one from this, so just index 0, like so. All right, so what's the rest of this method is going to be my my network call. So let's go ahead and grab this part right here, so my try catch block, and I will copy that guy, move it down into here, paste it in, and then finally I need to return the comic, and it's usually a little bit better. So it's saying it could be null, so I'm going to go ahead and declare that local variable outside of the try catch block. All right, and if it is null, then so be it. All right, but it should, let's see, sure. Let's initialize it to null. Okay. All right, very good. One thing that I probably should do is log this message instead. So log.e. I can give it some kind of tag if I want. Just gonna hard code in the word tag for now. Yeah, I guess technically this was hello button, so HB, I guess. And then what I'll do is e.get. I could get the stack trace if I wanted the closest thing to what it gave me. I think so. Stack trace here. Yeah, okay, so it's a stack trace element. Let's see, I can either convert that to string, or I think it might give me the same thing if I just do a get message, like so. Great. I want to kick this thing off. So let's go back up here, and remember, so I need to make an instance of this task and call execute on it. So I'll do it all in one line. New get comic task, like so, dot execute, and I'm going to pass in my URL string here, like so. And if I ran this, it should appropriately give me the comic. I just need to do something with it. So you remember, I don't want to update. I don't want to update my UI right here. All the UI stuff is going to go on the callback. So I go to onPostExecute, which again, the type of the parameter is what's being returned from do in background. I usually keep in the super call here. No, not quite sure why. And then I'm going to do the work. The other part of this, which was the setting the text. All right, so I'll copy that, or cut it, I should say, move it down into here, paste it in. Oh, and it looks like I should have made that a field. Let's see, so I guess originally I just had it as a local variable. Yep, it was just local. So I'm going to go ahead and select it and then do a refactor. So I'm going to refactor, let's see, extract field. And it gives me my name, and I'll put in the capital M here for this guy. So there we go. So my message text view, and it does the capturing up in onCreate. And then let's see if it did this correctly. Yeah, there we go. So down in onPostExecute, it uses the field here. All right, so basic version. I'm gonna run it. Chances are I messed something up, but let's see what we got here. So it ran before, but that was a demo version. So I'm just gonna rerun this guy from scratch and see what I get. All right, so it came up, and here's the initial one. You click the button 0 times, then I click press me, cross your fingers. All right, let's see. Yeah, I guess I didn't update my view there, right? So it's just giving me the same old thing it did. That's not very helpful. So I'm going to go back into my set text, and instead of that, I'm gonna print out comic.toString. All right, that looks like it'd be more fun. So let this guy instant run. It gives me quick. Let's see, and there. Wow, got it right the first time this time. Very good. And we see that clicking it gives us an issue. So I clicked it a couple times, so it gives me issue number 2 and all the information about that. Okay. Very good. So that's almost it for this. I'll give you a little hint on the lab. So this really is the first part of what you're going to want to do. But the second part is instead of displaying this whole thing, you're going to want to go ahead and grab the comics, grab the location of the image, because you're going to have to use a separate task now to go out and download the comic image itself. So it's actually going to kick off a second async task from within here. So in some sense, they're going to be chained together, right? Is one way of doing it that I found worked out pretty nicely. Okay. All right. So back to the slides here just to finish up. So we did that. And again, parting comments. Async tasks really good for things that would hang your UI thread that are too slow to just do it on there. Network tasks like we're doing in this lab is a perfect example of something that meets that requirement, right? And now hopefully if you've been coding along here, you have a working example. Excellent. Have a great day. See you later.